All right, this video is all about the very basics of AI agents. I'm sure you've heard a lot about AI agents in the news or online. People say AI agent, you might not know what that means, so I'm here to give you the very basics of how they work. So I'm sure you're familiar with LLMs, ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini or whatnot, and these are next token or next word predictors. So when you type in a question or any type of query, what it outputs is essentially what it predicts would be the most likely most likely word or most likely sentence following what you had said in your query. But what people don't realize is that you can actually give these LLMs tools and the ability to execute those tools or those functions, or even APIs. So I'll give an example of how this could work. So for my example, I'll use car dealership. So I'm not super familiar with car dealerships, but I have a good understanding. So first, let me just give you a diagram of how an AI agent would work, and then we can go into the example. So here we'll have the base, and this will be an LLM, let's say Chat GPT. So this is the LLM. This is kind of like the main driver behind the AI agent, and then we'll have tools that it could use. So we'll say tool 1, tool 2, and tool 3. Now, what you would also do would be give it a description of each tool as well as examples of when you would use it, because the agent, or in this case, ChatGPT, needs to know when to use each one of its tools. So say tool 1 description, make this a little smaller, tool 1 description, tool 2 description, tool 3 description. And then description plus examples, that will just make it a little more helpful for the AI agent to know when and how to use each tool. So this is what it looks like. I'll bring these down a little bit more because I will be adding more words over there on the right. So now let's go to this car dealership example. I'm not as familiar, again, I'm not super familiar with car dealerships, but I think I have a good understanding of how they work and what they would do. So let's say we want to have a car dealership AI agent. So what do car dealerships do? What are things that, what are the different functions or tools, I guess, an AI agent for a car dealership would need to know how to do? So the first thing would be car dealerships sell cars. So we'll have some sort of car salesman selling cars. Let's go ahead and make it smaller again. Let's make it a little bigger. Bring that out. Okay, so that's one thing that they do. And if I'm correct, I believe they also sometimes buy cars. So when they buy a car, they'll have to appraise its value. So buy car appraise value. And then if they do end up buying a car, oops, I don't like that, no. If they do end up buying a car, they'll have to clean the car before they can sell it, right? So clean car. So now these are all the different tools or functions that this AI agent would need to have. So in tool number 1, we'll say sell a car. Tool number 2, when we say buy a car, we'll make it a little bit more specific. So we'll say appraise a car value. Car's value, whoops. All right. Tool number 3, clean the car, clean a car. So now over here we'll say tool number 1 is sell a car. Tool number 2, appraise a car's value. Tool number 3. So now let's go ahead and give a description and examples of when and how to use each tool, so that way the AI agent could have a better understanding of when and how to use each tool. So sell a car. Let's say when a customer says they want to buy a car, use this tool to help them buy a car. Easy enough. Appraise the car value. When a customer wants to sell their car, oh my god, use this tool to figure out how much their car is worth. Clean a car. When a car is dirty, oh my god, use this tool to clean the car. All right, that seems good enough. I mean, you can definitely get more descriptive, give more better examples or whatnot, but this is just, again, a very basic idea of how it works and what to do. So here we have the descriptions. I'll put those down here. So similarly to how everybody uses ChatGPT, which is, you type in a query and you get an answer, for AI agents, you do type in a query, but now instead of an answer, you would have the AI agent execute one of these tools. So I'll have a query of, make this smaller again. A customer just came in and wants to sell their car. So I'll send this query to the AI agent, and now the AI agent has to figure out which one of these tools to use, and based on this, it would most likely use appraise a car's value. Now, instead, if I said something such as a customer just came in and wants to buy a car, now it would execute this tool, sell a car. Try a new query. We just bought a used car and we need to clean it. Now the AI agent would execute the clean a car tool. So that's the very, very basic of AI agents and how they work. Now, there are what are called multi-agent systems. So here, in a multi-agent system, you essentially have multiple of these agents. So this would be one single AI agent. Let me see if I can just copy this off all. All right, let's see this. All right. No, hold on. Probably bring it over here. All right, screw it. So now when you have multiple agents, you'll have kind of multiple of these single AI agents. And then they're different type of architectures, but I'm sure you can kind of get a good sense of how they work. I'll keep this here. So for instance, you'll have, let's say you have a supervisor agent, and here you'll actually have an AI, I'll say AI, agent number 1, agent number 2, agent number 3. And then within each one of these agents, they'll have their own tools as before. So this is one agent right here. Now here, these are all 3 agents. These are 3 separate agents. So each one of them will have their own tools that they can execute. So the difference between having a single AI agent and a multi-agent system really comes down to how many different tools you need. For instance, if you only have these 3 tools, you don't need a single agent for every single one of them. because at that point each one just only has one tool, so it's just kind of redundant. Another question you might have is, if you have, let's say you have an agent with 50 tools, the more tools you have, then it's oftentimes harder for the agent to figure out which specific tool to use. So that's when you bring in a multi-agent system. So here we'll have a supervisor agent. Going back to the car dealership example, we can say each agent has its own role. So car salesman, who else would work in a dealership? Maybe like a mechanic. And a supervised agent. So this would be like the boss of the dealership. Who else would work in a car dealership? That's fine. I guess we only need 2 agents here. All right, so here, now we can give each one of these agents their own tools that they can execute. So car salesman, let's say he can take customers on test drive. He could figure out how much to sell a car for. So we'll say figure out how much to sell a car for money-wise. Make that a little smaller and easier to see. What else would a car salesman do? All right, I guess I should have known more about car salesman before I made this video, but it doesn't really matter. All right, we'll just give them 2 tools. But the premise is, you can give them more tools than this. Mechanic, let's say, if a customer is bringing their car to sell, they need to figure out if this car is good. Or if the car is healthy, I guess. Figure out if the car is healthy, or whatever word you would use for cars, but you guys get what I'm trying to say. Figure out if the car is healthy, fix any issue, whatnot. Again, we can have more tools than this for the mechanic, but due to my lack of domain knowledge here, I'll just have these 2 tools. So now, when a query comes in, here, and let's say something, I mean, the queries could be pretty much the exact same as the single agent. And again, the premises of a multi-agent system really comes down to how many tools you need. But now, if a query comes in, it will go to the supervisor agent or the boss, and then the boss will determine, out of all the agents I have, under me, which agent would get this query, and then that agent would then decide which tool should I use. So if we say a customer wants to sell their car, the supervisor agent would pass it to the actually, who would they pass it to? All right, new query. A customer wants to buy a car. Then the supervisor agent would pass it to the car salesman, who would, let's say, all right, let's make it a little easier. A customer wants to test drive a car. The boss would pass it to a car salesman, who would then execute the test drive function. Let's say customer wants to sell a car. I guess you'd probably pass that to the mechanic first, then figure out if the car is healthy. So that's the premise behind multi-agent systems. Now, there are multiple architectures. Oops, I butchered that. There we go. All right, so here, This would be a what is known as a supervisor architecture, where you have a supervisor slash boss agent. Then you have the employees, or the one tier down AI agents, who then have the ability to execute different queries or functions. Hierarchical multi-agent systems would essentially be multiple of these. If you had an entire company, actually, how do I make the text smaller? All right, it's fine. Um, how can I move this? All right, let's go manually, I guess. So with a hierarchical architecture, it would be pretty much just multiple of these. You would have like multiple bosses. So maybe you have a CEO at the top, and then they would have like a CMO, CRO, CIO. So it's just a much bigger tree of AI agents. Another another architecture would be what's called a network of agents. So instead of some type of hierarchical architecture, all these agents would be essentially on the same level of each other. So they would all be connected. They would all be connected with each other. So these would all be different agents, and then they would have their own tools, off to the side. But the real issue with a network architecture is sometimes it could be hard for the agents to figure out who exactly to assign the query to, because it's essentially it could be an open loop. So if a query comes in and this agent thinks, hey, I think it should be this guy, or this agent, and then this agent says, I think it should be this agent, and essentially this goes back and forth, back and forth. Whereas in something like this, it's more closed. So the query comes in, and then this agent decides which one of these agents to pass it to, and then let's say they pass it to this agent, and then this agent will execute the query. So that's another approach. And then the most common would be some type of custom architecture. So it's somewhat like a mix. I'll show you what I mean here. So we'll have, let's say this will be the first agent, not necessarily the supervisor, but you can think of it as a supervisor. And let's say it has two agents here. So this will be like the main boss. And then this could be, let's say, let's say secretary. Secretary. Did I spell that right? I think I did. Nice. Maybe I didn't. Secretary. We'll say. Let's just call this a CEO. CEO. CMO. All right. So now in a custom approach, it's similar to something like a hierarchical or supervisor architecture, but you know, a little different. They could have multiple agents at multiple levels. So here, for example, you can have, three agents here with the secretary just taking care of secretary type needs. But if it's a bigger query, you can pass it to, the marketing agent who has maybe a marketing manager. Otherwise, they can execute certain queries or tools. Otherwise, they can pass it along to the marketing manager who could either do it himself or pass it along to one of his marketing employees and whatnot. So that's kind of how this custom architecture works, and I believe this is usually the most common when companies or whoever are trying to deploy AI agents, multi-agent systems. They'll build a more custom architecture to complete their needs. And yeah, that's pretty much about it. If you have any questions or want me to make any more videos, please let me know.